Hi, welcome to the Taco Cast. I'm Crystal,
I'm Will.
and you're our audience, and thank you for joining us on this lovely Sunday. Insert whatever time Will gets this uploaded.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hi.
So today, we're going to talk about horrible bosses. I'm sure that each and every person out there, somewhere along their lives, either in high school or whenever you first started working, somewhere between then and now, you've had a horrible boss. Or somebody who was a superior, a shift manager, or somebody who was above you. Maybe they just thought they were. Maybe they were the same entry level position as you were, but they just acted like they were the boss or they thought that they were superior. So today, we're going to take a look at horrible bosses. And we're going to share a couple stories of horrible bosses that we have both had. And maybe, just maybe, you can find some humor and a way to let it all go. Make it all better. So, Crystal's going to go first. Crystal?
I am? Oh, I know. Okay. Yeah, horrible bosses. So I've been employed in some capacity or another since I was 13, cleaning the comic shop in exchange for free comics and trinkets off the shelf. And then, of course, legally employed when I hit 15 in fast food, which was first off where my that's the best way to phrase people suck, and working in fast food really hammers that home, especially as a young kid. You're all excited. I was so excited. I had my McDonald's uniform on. I was like, yeah, Mom, get a picture. Oh, I gotta get, oh, I'm employed. I'm gonna get a paycheck and shit, just it's gonna be great. And it was like 2 weeks into it, I was like, wow, this is awful. People are awful. People are so awful. But anyways, I had a boss there who wasn't necessarily horrible per se. Well, let me wind that back. Um, I'm going to assume that he just didn't realize how horrible he was. That he was an awful person. He, in addition to blaming his hair loss on the headset, because that's how genetics and testosterone work in males. Um, he would also clock us off shift. We'd still be working, and because apparently they got apparently the company or him got dinged on performance reviews or whatever when people went on overtime, he'd just clock us out.
You'd still be working?
We'd still be working.
Wow.
Yeah, he committed wage theft. He stole our wages, and of course most of us are teenagers. We have no idea that that's so illegal. And the fact that if an on-the-job injury happened, which probably would have happened, eventually, you've got young kids and little supervision and, fucking heavy equipment, we wouldn't be covered. The company could legally turn around and say, oh, they didn't get hurt at work. Look at this timesheet. Oops. Yeah, and honestly, despite the fact that that didn't stress me as much as some of my other horrible bosses did, I think that might actually be the worst because he stole from a bunch of people.
Mm.
Will, how about you?
Oh, that's it? You don't have an example of, besides you stole your wages?
Oh, I got more than that. We're going to have a little give and take. I tell you
Okay.
about an awful boss, you're going to tell me.
All right, well, see, I had my first job, real job, actually, I got paid to do. I was 7, somewhere in there. I was either 6 or 7. I shouldn't have been walking, as far as I did, and I walked the 3 miles into town from our where we lived there on the farm. But I walked into town, and they were tearing down old brick buildings, and the man who owned the construction company was a friend of the family. So he would pay me to come to there, on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, and I would go down there and I would sort broken bricks from good bricks, and I would put them in stacks. A good brick went in this pile. Bad bricks went into that pile. If they were stuck together, I had a hammer and a chisel that I would chisel the bricks apart. So if they're stuck together with mortar, and I would do that. That was my first job. Now I wasn't the horrible boss. That was just a job. I I also worked every day as part of the family to make sure everything worked on the farm too. I mean, I had to feed the pigs, I had to feed the chickens every morning before I went to school. Didn't matter if it was snowing or what the weather was like, I still had to work. So, but to my first horrible boss, and believe me, ladies and gentlemen, I have had a lot of horrible bosses in my lifetime. But the one that stands out the most was a boss I had at a hotel. I worked in the kitchen. I was a line cook in this kitchen. Now, I knew something was fishy about the job. The day that I went to apply for the job, they put it in the paper, looking for a line cook, and I think it was paying minimum wage. It was never going to be anything more than that. But I went to the job, and as he was walking out they set me down in a booth there in the restaurant. As he was walking out, I watched him swipe the tips of a waitress right off the table, and I was like,
Wow.
"What?" And then as he walked and got closer and closer to me, he was taking the tips from other tables and just stuffing them in his shirt pocket, and I was like, wow. I mean, I've worked in restaurants before this, so I kind of knew that's a bad thing. You're swiping somebody else's tips, and for yourself. Even if they share tips, when I've worked in places that have done that, and that's still wrong. But he would directly steal them and pocket them for himself.
Wow.
So he comes over and he only asked me two questions, and neither of the questions that he asked me had anything to do with the actual experience that I would have to give forth to the company. Was I going to be a beneficial employee? The two questions he asked me had nothing to do with it. So I knew right then and there, this is not going to be a great job. It's not going to be a job that I want to look forward to. And it's not going to be something that I'm going to have long term. I mean, I only needed the job for about 6 months because I was moving anyway, so it didn't really matter. But anyways, so I got the job. I went to work. I did my thing. I kept my head down. And there was a lot of turmoil within the company. Now, this is a major corporation, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't like some dinky, mom and pop, hotel motel. This is a large corporation that I won't put out there, but let's just say they're in the top 5 when it comes to total hotel chains and restaurants across the United States and internationally. I do believe they have a lot of international hotels as well. So I start doing my job, and everybody started doing their jobs. And then one week, when we always got our next week's work schedule on Thursdays, Thursday came, we didn't get a schedule. Nobody got a schedule. Not a dishwasher, not a busboy, not a cook. Nobody had a schedule. And the boss was nowhere around. So we started calling, his phone number, his cell, and everything we could think of, to try to get a hold of him. And one waitress actually said she thought she knew what apartment complex he lived in. So we dispatched one of the busboys to his location, and he said, yeah, he's there. He's drunk off his ass. And this was like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. The guy was just absolutely wasted. So they said, okay, well, maybe he'll call us tonight. So we didn't think anything of it. Friday morning, I show up there thinking he's got to have the schedules put up. Who's going to work Friday morning? There's got to be a busboy for the morning shift. There's got to be a cook for the morning shift. No, nobody showed up because they didn't have a schedule. But me, being the great person that I am, I'm there. So I'm like, then all the waitresses are like, hey, we open in 10 minutes. What's going on? And I'm like, I don't know. Don't look at me. I'm not the boss. So they said, well, you need to, the hotel manager, not the restaurant manager, not this, the head chef who I'm talking about, who was my boss. He goes, well, you're here. So clock in. You're now the morning cook, for today. And we'll figure out something, who's going to bust tables and wash the dishes, while they try to get a hold of the boss. So I watched him walk into the office, and there's a big glass window, in the office from the kitchen where I was at. And I get done with the morning shift, and I said, "Did you ever get a hold of him?" Because this is the hotel manager. He's sat there the whole day, and he's like, "No, I can't get a hold of him." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm like, I'm going to go home." He goes, "Well, somebody has to be here for the lunch shift." And I go, "Well, I can't work all day." He goes, "Yeah, how do you get a hold of these other people?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know their numbers. Yeah, that's maybe there's a personnel file, something somewhere. I don't know." So they finally got a hold of a dishwasher. They got a hold of a busboy, and they got a hold of one of the other cooks. And they came in, and they relieved me halfway through the lunch shift and then did the dinner shift. Next day, I come in because I'd agreed with the hotel manager that I would come in the morning for the morning shift. I came in, and I was getting the line set up and everything to do breakfast that morning. And the chef, my boss, showed up. He walked in not through the main front door. He walked in through the back door of the place. And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm busy right now." I see him briefly over the line. I see him. He comes in, and I see him, then he disappears. And then I see him come back a couple minutes later, and now he's got a big cardboard box in his hand. And then it looks like it's heavy because he's straining to actually carry it. And then I see him go back out the back door. And I was like, that was odd. Okay, well, maybe he's bringing in inventory or something. I don't know what's going on. So, make a long story short, because we can move on so we can get to more of your examples. He came in and he stole everything out of the walk-in.
Oh my gosh.
He stole all the lobster. He stole all the steaks. He stole everything that would be needed to run the lunch shift and the dinner service that night. He took it all. Every bit of it. The only thing he left behind was a couple of potatoes, and there were some carrots, and I think like a green bean or a leek or something like that. And that was it. He took everything. And as I was, I'm sitting there, I'm like walking, and I'm looking at all this. I'm like, what are they going to do? They can't go out to the local grocery store and buy lobster. That this is not something that's sold in our area where this took place. I'm like, well, they're going to have to take that off the menu for the night. I'm like, because you can always go to the store and buy steak. It's not going to be the same quality steak. I mean, it might be regular New York's or something like that, but it's all gone. So I go to tell the hotel manager and the hotel manager, yeah, and the food service manager. I go tell them what has just taken place. This man just stole all the stuff out of the walk-in, and they were like, "Well, did you see him physically take it all?" And I'm like, "No, I just watched him walk out the back door with a giant box. And now when I walk in the walk-in, it's all gone." And they tell me, they looked right at me, eye to eye, and said, "Well, this sounds like something for corporate to have to take care of. We're going to have to call corporate." And I'm like, how about you call the damn police? The man just stole everything out of the walk-in. So, that was my first horrible boss. I've got more. Stay tuned. You're up.
I don't know, man. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, right?
Stole from the freaking waitresses?
Mm-hmm.
Stole food?
I should have known something was up when he stole the money the day he came to I'm there for an interview. He's stealing then.
That's so bad. I worked in a cafe at I don't know if you remember this or not, but like at the Kmart stores used to have cafes in them.
They did.
Yeah, so I worked in a cafe and a Kmart for a little while. At the same time that I was working at a Shopko as a cashier. I didn't last very long at Shopko as a cashier.
Did Shopko last very long?
Wow. So I worked for Shopko, and there was this it wasn't a boss thing. Although at the time I thought the boss was horrible because how could the boss not realize, my pain. Um, so yeah, my check stand is in front of this display that's got the hand towels for $5. It's $1.25 a piece. And this gal wants to argue with me about her, like, she's got like 2 or 3 of them, and she wants them to be $1 a piece. I'm like, they're $1.25 a piece. No, the sign says 4 for $5. So anyway, so this gal comes through the line and she's got the towels for $1.25 a piece, and she's arguing with me that they're supposed to be $1 a piece, and I'm like, the sign is right over there, and 4 for $5, $1.25 a piece. She keeps arguing with me, and I'm like, well, because look, like, I don't know how to show you that they're $1.25 a piece without, like, it's just, how do you not know that looking at this sign? So I get out a piece of paper and a piece of receipt, or a piece of receipt paper and a pencil, and I'm like, okay, so 4 times $1.25, and then 4, and then you carry that, and that's $5. She's like, no, they're $1 a piece. I'm like, okay, I don't have the time to teach you basic math. Obviously, the educational system has failed you, so I'm gonna need you to go to customer service and have them figure out where the fuck your math education failed, because I got work I got to do. And I was fired the next day because apparently you can't tell customers that they're too stupid.
Oh my gosh! Who knew?
Yeah, it was like 2 days later. The guy's like, so we've got a complaint. I'm like, I've got a complaint. The caliber of customers you have in this store is inferior, sir.
Wow.
I know, arguing with the guy, and I was like, you don't understand how stupid she was. And he's like, yeah, you can't tell customers they're stupid. I'm like, maybe that's why they're stupid. Did you think about that? You let them be stupid, and they're just going to keep doing it. I think you're the problem.
That is... And you got fired, you say?
I know, I can't
she
even
got fired.
understand.
Oh,
Yeah, so I was working, I was doing the cafeteria, or the cafe at the same time. And my boss was actually pretty cool. She let me experiment with stuff, It's a Kmart cafe, so it's not like we're fine dining or anything, but, we've got some stuff, and I'll experiment. I'd be like, dude, check it out! And she's like, no, we're not serving that. It's like, it's fucking delicious. You should try it. She's like, sure it is. It's not going on the menu. We should stop. But yeah, she let me, do random experiments and stuff like that. So she was pretty cool. The people that owned the cafe, though, not my boss, but the people who owned it, they were weird. Like, they would literally have you count the numbers of pepperonis that you put on a pizza. I would have to count them.
Okay.
Yeah. That was weird to me. Like, one guy's like, I'm sorry, that looks like there's 4 pieces of pepperoni on that slice. It should only be 3.
I worked at Red Lobster, which is a restaurant chain, and when you make pasta for someone, it's already pre-packaged by the total noodle count, and you put it in a Ziploc bag. So you make an entire pot of pasta, and then you count each and every strand and put it into a Ziploc bag. You get vegetables.
Oh my god, that's so tedious.
You get a vegetable side. It goes into a little glass ramekin about like this, and it goes through a conveyor belt. Everything inside of a Red Lobster is cooked on a conveyor belt system, unless it's deep fried, ladies and gentlemen. Everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But everything is counted out, because that way it's consistent. The same meal that you get here in Washington State at Red Lobster is the same meal that you'll get at a Red Lobster in, well, they would have one in Boston, I'm pretty sure, because they suck. But they would maybe in Dallas, Texas, but you get the same consistent meal, just like McDonald's. Everything is consistent in it, the portion control in size. It keeps the food cost down. There's a reason behind all that. But that's that. You got fired though.
Oh well, no, not from from Shopko, not from Kmart. I moved on to a different job after then. But one of the bosses, not mine, would come in, and I don't know if he was just bored or whatever. I'm like, is there nothing happening in sportswears right now? How about you fuck off back to your own section? But he'd come in and he'd do shit that would just... I'm sitting there on my break, mind you. I'm sitting there on my break. I'm doing a puzzle, da-da-da-da. And he comes in and he starts wiping his finger on stuff. Then he gets a fucking ladder and climbs up on like the fans, right? And he puts his fucking wipes down the back of the fan. He's like, "Oh, we've got some dust up here." He's looking at me, and I'm just like, "I'm on my break. I'm not dealing with whatever it is that you're doing right now." And I'm doing my thing, and he's like, "Well, I think we're gonna have to clean that." I looked at him, and I was like, "I'm pretty sure by we you mean me, because I don't see your ass getting up there and cleaning those." And that's when he finally fucked off back to sportswear.
So in the 1980s, I worked for Target. Back when they had the Cabbage Patch doll craze. If you can't remember the Cabbage Patch dolls, you skipped an entire decade. Yeah.
Well, you know, we might have younger viewers who weren't here when.
Oh, well, okay. If you don't know about what the Cabbage Patch dolls are and you missed that craze, you missed an entire decade. I stick by
Jesus
that.
Christ.
Even if you're younger, you would know what a Cabbage Patch doll is.
I wouldn't say you missed it.
Yeah. So I worked in hardware.
Dodged a
That
bullet.
my job was to stock oil, put hammers on the shelves, nails, rope, stuff like that in the Target store. I didn't work anywhere near. And these are completely opposite sides of the store of where I worked at. Hardware was that way. Toys were that way. But at the same time, the Cabbage Patch dolls were going, and that craze was going on here in America and around the world. California raisins were taking off at the same time. Yeah.
Oh, those are so good.
And that actually,
I heard it through the grapevine.
Right. It actually, my job in hardware is there were car seat covers, and air fresheners, car seat covers, all kinds of things with California raisins on them. You would be surprised the items that there were that were just gaudy and awful looking that had California raisins on them. So every day I would go to work. They would give me a little phone to have to carry around. And it was a cordless phone. And you have every hour and a half or so, you had to go and put it in the dock, and then you'd get another phone out of the dock every hour and a half or so. And people would call. These were actual customers who would call on the phone, and they would ask, "Do you have California raisins?" Yes, sir. We have plenty of California raisins, sun visors, car seat covers, and you'd list off the California raisin items. And it got to the point where I said it so many times, and I didn't want to forget anything, so I'd actually have a little cheat sheet in my pocket that I would pull out, and I had all the different items that had California raisins on them. And it wasn't just items that you would actually display in your car or were useful things. Armor All, the spray, had California raisins on it. And you would list off all these different things because people would ask. Oh, believe me, they would ask. So people would show up in the store and there's no Cabbage Patch dolls on the shelf. And everybody needed one for Christmas. Christmas. I don't remember what year it was. But that is the day my soul died. Christmas. They would come in and they would fight each other. Physically fight each other over a Cabbage Patch doll. Over an outfit that went along with it. An accessory pack. A frame for your little girl's, birth certificate for her Cabbage Patch doll. All these things. People just went nuts. They lost their absolute freaking minds. And there were only so many Cabbage Patch dolls. I'd get to work at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and there would be people camped outside in the parking lot, waiting to get in to buy Cabbage Patch dolls. I would go to my little part of the store and go, ha ha, as I walk down that main aisle, and I got to take that left, and all my fellow co-workers had to go work on the right, where people were losing their damn minds. So on this day in particular, and this is where my evil, awful boss came in, I was working in hardware, and he came across the store and said, we need you to help unload an entire pallet of Cabbage Patch dolls. And I'm like, okay, sure, great. And they come off the truck. You take the knife, you cut the saran wrap because they're all saran wrapped on a pallet. And all right, I'll take them off the pallet. No, I want you personally, to take them out and put them on the shelf. I'm like, you don't pay me enough to do that. I've seen these people physically fight each other. I mean, and violently beat the living snot out of each other over an outfit for a Cabbage Patch doll. Do you think I want to physically walk out there with a Cabbage Patch doll? That's signing my own death warrant right there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not doing that. He said, you either do it or you're fired. And I will blackball you from corporate so you'll never work in this company ever again. And I'm like, are you threatening me? And he said, yeah, I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you, get your ass in there, get those off the pallets, and bring them out to the customers. I'm like, see here, you can kiss my white ass, sir, is exactly what I said to him. You can kiss my white ass. And I turned around, took off my little, smock vesty thing, whatever the hell they call it. And I threw it on the floor there in the hardware department, took my phone, tossed it onto the shelf, and I proceeded to walk out. I got about halfway up the store, and he tackled me from behind, knocking me forward. And he was going to physically assault me on top of that, because I was refusing to be the guinea pig to take those Cabbage Patch dolls out there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a horrible boss. Incidentally, he went from department manager all the way up to store manager before they fired him. They found out that he was giving cocaine to other employees there to keep them alert during the holiday season. He never offered me any cocaine, because I'm pretty sure I would have told him to shove it up his,
It's just as effective as snorting it. Yeah.
Right? Next.
What the fuck? I did have one boss. Well, I had a lead, I guess, that blamed me for stuff that happened when I was on break. She lost her fucking mind on me I was new. I'd worked in lab for a couple of years at this point, but I was new to this facility. And I was still training, and this is when I knew things weren't going to go well, because I'm still training. And I'm like, hey, there's no gender marked on this page, on this requisition. What's our process? Do we hold it, or do we have like an unknown, and then client services does that? Like, what's our process if we don't have all the information? So she tells me, oh, well, you can read the patient's name and you can guess what the gender is. And it was an androgynous name, like Terry or something like that. I was like, you can't.
Bob.
Yeah. And she tries to tell me that there's it wasn't Terry, but, because I'm not going to. But it was an androgynous name like that. And she's like, well, you can just guess. And I go, this is an androgynous name. Like, there's people, men and women, that both have this name. And she tells me, no, there's not. Now, at the time, there's a very famous actor that also has this name that is the opposite gender that she's telling me to mark on this patient. And I'm like, well, have you ever heard of so-and-so? Which made me the asshole. But I was like, you're the one who's telling me to guess on patient information, and okay, whatever. So I'm moving on. And then a couple months later, I'm on break, and I come back up, and she loses her shit on me about, I sent the wrong specimen, and how could I do that? And I'm so stupid. I'm supposed to call client services. And I'm like, I just got back from lunch. Whatever the fuck happened in the last hour was not me.
Ooh.
Who was here in the last hour? Only me, and I wouldn't make that mistake. Well, it looks like you fucking did. So we're legit about ready to trade blows in the middle of a fucking laboratory. And manager for another location, or not location, but another area in this particular laboratory, hears us and is like, hey, Crystal, how about you come with me? And I'm like, I'm still so mad. Anyway, so she asked me to do some stuff, and she hired me for her department out of the one that. And honestly, she's the reason I'm still working in the laboratory today. This particular manager. Shout out to Gail, you're amazing. We're still friends, actually, after all these decades. But she's the reason I'm still working in laboratory, because if I hadn't gone to work for her and had stayed in the department I would have quit within the week. I'd even told Will here, I was like, I will fucking do anything that isn't that. I will scrape bubblegum out of your mouth. I will, whatever job somebody has for me, the worst thing I can think of, which is, reaching into somebody's freaking food hole and pulling food out of it. Whatever, I'll do it. I'm not going back to that place. Fuck that gal.
Be a
Fuck her
proctologist.
Wow.
That just happened, ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah, I was. The chick was blaming me for shit that I wasn't even there for. Yeah. Gail is the reason I still work in. Gail is the reason for my career.
Well, I guess thank you, Gail. Mm-hmm. Does Gail ever watch these?
Oh, I don't know if she does.
So if your name is Gail, thank you, Gail. If you're not Gail, change your name to Gail, and thank you.
Change your name. Yeah, she's pretty
awesome. If you want to be Gail this week, you can be Gail this week.
I learned a lot from her. Yeah. She was a good supervisor.
All right. Well, do you want to show everybody your awesome outfit that you're wearing today? Because Crystal is very proud of this outfit. And she thinks that it was by far one of the better purchases that she has ever made in her adult life. So I'm going to move the camera now so Crystal can show us this awesome... No. Okay. We're going to change it like this. All right. And then Crystal is going to show the world this awesome outfit.
Oh, yeah. That's right. It is a sequin dress. Oh, can't quite get the whole thing. And I've got red velvet leggings. So... I bought a lot of fairly fancy things.
Oh, hold on. Got to change it so we can see something besides the top of your head.
No, just look at the top of my head.
Alrighty.
I bought a fair amount of fancier, because I'm still a cheapskate. But this, by the way, less than $30. Yeah. 75% off. Whatever. So I got a fair amount of sparkly because I am half
bought
raccoon.
This on purpose.
I did. I bought this on purpose because it's amazing. And I'm wearing velvet leggings with it. I don't know if I mentioned that, but I should.
Yeah.
Anyways, COVID has killed everything. There's no places for us to go for the holidays, so for me to wear these fancy outfits. So I've just started wearing them. I played Minecraft in a full-length sequin gown last weekend.
She did. Feel beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Just watching her sit there in a chair and not move at all while playing Minecraft from, in an evening, gown. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm wearing this.
Mm-hmm. I'm wearing this.
I'm killing it.
Yep.
She's absolutely killing it. And you know what? She was killing it at Minecraft too.
Fuck 2020. Just be fabulous everywhere you go.
We are so sick and tired of this year. We cannot wait for a new year to turn.
I even full on bought myself a crown. She
did. A really nice crown. And I'll enclose a picture of her crown here at the end in post. So, is there anything else you'd like to add tonight? About evil bosses? What's the best way to deal with somebody who's an evil boss? Or
work someplace else.
Work somewhere else.
Yeah.
Is murder acceptable?
I actually, on a serious note, a lot of times you're going to find a personality conflict between you and a boss or a supervisor or a lead. And it's not necessarily them being horrible or you being stupid, because lots of times you'll feel like, what am I doing wrong? Oh my God, this is how dumb am I that I can't get this? And a lot of times it's really just a personality conflict or a communication conflict. So if you aren't able to move to some place where you're going to be in a healthier psychological relationship with the people that you're working for or working with, then try to see what you can do to improve communication. There's a couple of books available. I do not know the titles off the top of my head, but if I can remember them.
You're a terrible person to recommend anything.
There's
you got
a book that exists. You can read it, and I don't.
With words in it
Yeah.
written by this person who went tickety 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 on
I
something.
have it, and if I can find it and or remember the title, I'll give it to
It's in
Will
your
before he
desk.
puts this. It
The,
actually
the
might be.
the different ones on communication, effective communications.
Oh, those ones actually aren't the one that I was thinking of, but
Oh,
those are really good too. My current manager gave those to me.
hmm.
Yeah, as she's really nice too. I've learned a lot from her.
If I have any tips for if you have an evil or an awful boss, um, one, don't kill him. Two,
That should be a
if
given.
you do kill him,
No,
do
no,
not
not
talk.
it.
Oh,
Fuck.
what? What? They may actually do it. Okay, all right. So I'm not going to give you tips on how to get away with murder. Um, let's see here. Then I have other
What are you?
tips.
Are you trying to generate content for your other show?
I,
Stop that.
okay, if you don't kill your boss, that's number one. Number two, if you can't find a way to effectively drum it into their head with a frying pan, or no, still too far. Okay, all right. Don't kill your boss. Don't hit them with a frying pan. Um, don't hit them with anything.
Okay, Will's done talking now.
Okay. Maybe if your boss is awful, find somebody else who is at the same level as you, and then have the two of you go to talk to that awful boss. That way you have backup, kind of emotional support. What for somebody else who's going through the same thing
Hmm.
you are, and then it's not so much he said she said. Document everything. I,
Documentation is really important, especially if you're talking about a situation like I was in when I was younger and I was a victim of wage theft. Documentation is super important, especially if it's happening to multiple people. If you're in a situation like that where something blatantly illegal is happening and it's not just the person that you're working for is a huge jerk, document, 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 and be sure to contact Labor and Industries, and they will get you in. They will help you. They will help you work through it. They will get you recompense if you've been stolen from.
Lye is less than $6 a bag at Home Depot.
Oh
And
my God!
no,
Everybody have a good day. We'll see you next weekend.
bye.